We've all heard about groups of wartime veterans who get together now and then for a reunion of sorts, as if their shared experiences had become an unbreakable thread binding very different people together for life. Our next story concerns one such group. Their shared experience occurred in 1945, just as most American soldiers and sailors were celebrating the end of World War II and heading for home. But this crew had one more ordeal to endure: the big wind. Of all of history's events, none brings so many people together in such a complex and total way as war. Many friends are made, but too many are lost. These friends served together away from battle. They experienced war from the fringe. Yet they gathered in Des Moines recently to commemorate the anniversary of a captivating story of survival.
We pushed that thing for almost 2 years all over the Pacific, all through all the battle zones. And I haven't figured out yet whether the Japanese couldn't find us or didn't want us, but we didn't get hit.
We've only accounted for slightly over half of the people that served on that ship. We're still hunting for the other half. And it gets tougher as you go along.
The story starts in 1920, before some of these men were born, with the christening of a pleasure yacht called the Lindonia. Built for publisher Cyrus Curtis, the Lindonia's sleek lines were the pride of the coast of Maine. 228 feet in length, she was built for the sea, and her cabins and dining area were abundantly luxurious, even by the standards of the 20s. In 1939, the Lindonia was put on the auction block and renamed the Southern Seas by her new owner, Pan American Airlines. She was assigned to the South Pacific to serve as a hotel ship for crews and passengers in the days when flying at night was uncommon. When war broke out against Japan, the Southern Seas eventually became a naval vessel. She had no flight deck or big guns, but steamed through the Pacific campaign as proudly as any battle wagon.
It was good duty, but it was frustrating duty at times. Because you couldn't, we felt like, a lot of us felt like, why can't we do more to shorten up this war? And then you also stop to think that we're part of the 9 men that it takes to keep one on the front line. And that kind of eases the pain a little bit.
When you're talking about your bigger ships and your battleships and whatnot, they all had a set routine chore that they did. We didn't have. We had old Burnmaster Wayne diesel engines on there that the regular Navy had never heard about. We kept them going, and when we got them going and kept them going, we were proud. We kept everybody on the float.
The role of the Southern Seas in the Navy was similar to its duty before the war. Transient personnel, mostly officers and pilots, gratefully utilized the unmilitary accommodations of the yacht. For the duration of the war, the Southern Seas continued to provide many with fresh water, good food, and a new perspective on life for those immersed in war. As the war drew to a close, the Southern Seas appeared duty-worn. Repair parts were difficult to find, and the upkeep of yachts was not a high wartime priority. It had to be towed 1,200 miles from Guam to Okinawa, its final destination, in September of 1945. The day after its arrival in Buckner Bay, a storm arose.
So we knew the first storm was coming, and we didn't know exactly where it would hit, but it was tracked pretty well, I'd say, and we just didn't think it was going to be as severe as it was, and it banged us up quite a little. We lost the lifeboat.
But real trouble started to brew on October 8th.
Damage. And then the second one came along, predicted the same way, and it hit right on Buckner Bay, and 1,000 of the ships were able to sail away from Okinawa, and 500 vessels were caught in the Okinawa area. So there was a good deal of notice, but we just didn't think it was going to be nearly as severe as it was. I didn't, personally. I was just a kid at the time, I guess, and I thought it was a lot of fun at first, you know. Even when we were dragging anchor and the ship was in real trouble, and the waves were large enough that it broke off the stern flag, flag dropped in the water. I went aft to look what had happened, came back to the bridge and told the captain that the flag had broken off and fallen in the water. Should I run up the Panamanian flag? And he didn't think it was funny at all.
Being a non-swimmer all my life, have to go over the side with 2 broken legs. I know somebody upstairs must have loved me. I wouldn't be sitting here today talking about it if it wasn't for that fact, but I wouldn't want to see, no way would I ever want to see anything like that again. No way.
And when they did call for them to start, they started. But just barely, and we couldn't control them because they were operating, we didn't have enough starting air, we didn't have enough injection air. So we couldn't control them, and eventually they died and they wouldn't restart.
The Jack Singer eventually came down on us with his stern end toward us and saw us and started its engines and just crushed the side of the ship, knocked down one mast, cut holes in the side, and after that we were taking on more water and we drifted until we hit a reef.
I kept the searchlight on the stack and the 3 fellas. The time the lifeboat got over, got to the fella, one of our crew swam out with a rope, and time he got out there was only 1 left, and he was hanging onto the stack. The other 2 didn't make it. They were too weak to hang on.
When I finally let go of the rail, the ship went down, and I floated to the surface. My experience was the water was nice and warm, and relatively speaking, and calm, and green, and I felt protected, I guess, until I came up to the surface again. And then there was wind again, waves, and no control. You had no control over what was happening.
It was considered the worst typhoon to hit the area in 20 years, and Buckner Bay was where the most intense part of the storm had struck. Close to 200 ships were blown ashore. 5, including the Southern Seas, had sunk, and the beach was scattered with sailors and debris.
We kind of gathered there, and little by little, while the guys kept coming in, everybody that came in said, my gosh, I was sure I was the only guy that survived. But out of 52 men, 39 survived. And it made a pretty big miracle.
This year marked the 6th reunion of the crew of the Southern Seas. Some missed the typhoon in Okinawa. Some were on the ship for only a week before the storm hit. Some even courted their eventual wives on the boat. Had the Southern Seas not sunk, this group might not have evolved. So even though the Southern Seas was never fired upon by the enemy, its sailors are clearly survivors.
If it wasn't a good experience, we wouldn't be here. Simple as that.